Morning, everyone. Let me share my screen. And so in last class, we were looking at the analysis of, common source amplifiers. Right? And I'm just adding on to the same set of slides so that, there's some continuity. Now, if you look at what we covered yesterday, we said that these are the different things that we need to take a look at. So we looked at the DC transfer curve, the input and output bias points, how to choose them. Then we looked at gain, the small signal equivalent circuit, the input output impedances at low frequencies, high frequencies, bandwidth, noise. Now we started looking at a few trade-offs. We will continue that. In fact, we will look at signal swing, and then we will move over to other versions of this common source amplifier. Okay. Right. Now, if you look at this amplifier, right? Now, what are the signal swing limits? Okay, let us talk about the output signal swing limits. Okay, now on the higher side, this V out can go up to VDD. Right? If you don't have any current, the signal can go up to VDD. On the lower side, what is the limit for a linear kind of an operation? Let's say this transistor has to maintain at least a VD set, right? If the transistor goes below this VD set, if V out goes lower than VD set, then in that portion of the signal, you are going to have distortion because the transistor is no longer a current source, and you basically have a much different behavior of your transistor in that region. So the lowest signal is basically the VD sat of your transistor. Okay. So this is the signal swing limit. So you can say that the signal can swing up from VDD all the way down to VD set, where this is your ground. This is your signal swing limits. All right. Now, in practice, it may not be possible for you to go all the way very close to VDD. You might be slightly lower, but nevertheless, at least on paper, you can say that you can go up to VDD. Now, yesterday we started looking at the trade-offs, and yeah.
Sir, that is an output signal limit, right? So not input.
Yes, yes. I said output signal swing limits.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Now, in terms of trade-offs, I said that so let us look at if you want to increase gain, right? Now, gain is a little tricky part, so maybe I will cover the trade-offs a little later when we look at current source load. Okay. Now it is time for us to go and look at the yeah. Now the other thing is, how can you increase your gain? Okay. Now your gain is given by GM times R naught parallel to RD. Okay. Now depending on the value of RD and R naught, okay, one of them will be dominating. So it is quite possible, if you look at some older technology node, that your RD is dominating, which is why if you look at the textbook, it will approximate it to be GM times RD. Okay, but in practice, of course, it will be R naught parallel to RD. Now it depends on the value of R naught. Now, if you want to increase your gain, okay, so typically RD will be the lower value when you compare R naught and RD. And therefore, if you want to increase the gain, the first thing that you will need to do is to kind of increase RD. Now, if you increase RD, what happens? This results, of course, gain may increase, but it also results in a very important thing, which is that your V out DC will reduce. Am I right? Because your V out DC is given by VDD minus I capital D times RD. Now, for the same amount of current, if you go and just increase your RD, your V out DC will come down. Okay, which means that if you were to refer to our yesterday's discussion and look at this particular point, you're kind of moving more towards the right. Okay. Now, on the other hand, if you go and say, okay, I want to increase GM. Okay. Now, how will you increase GM? GM is increased typically by, if you keep everything else constant, like, it has three expressions. So if you keep the VGS, the gate input gate voltage constant, you can do it by increasing W by L, which will really increase your current, right? Your DC current will increase. Now, this will also result in what? Your V out DC to drop, right? So you're kind of stuck here, right? You want to increase gain, you're going to move your DC bias point. So you will end up sacrificing signal swing, right? Now, the best point to put your output DC is at the center of this two, right? But if you move this thing down, you are literally losing signal swing. Okay. So here if you kind of summarize the different things that we have talked about, we have talked about signal swing. We have talked about power. We've talked about gain. We have talked about noise, right? Now, all these things are interrelated. Okay. In Razavi's book, you will see what is called as the design hexagon, where they add one more thing, which is bandwidth. Okay. I have not covered that yet. I want to do it in the context of another thing. And of course, you will also have area, right? Now, all these things, if you touch one, the other thing will get impacted. Okay. So for example, if you increase GM, you will have, at least in this case, if you think that, if you assume that RD dominates, right, your gain increases, your noise decreases, okay, your power increases. Okay, these are the kind of trade-offs that you would see. All right. Now, on the other hand, if you decrease this, you will see the other kinds of effects. Okay. Now, let us move to another type of a common source, let's say, which is called as the common source. The topology is the same, but you change the load. You change the load to a diode connected load. Now, all of us know what is diode connection. You take a transistor, connect its drain and gate together, right? So now you can have two variants. You can put a PMOS transistor here and connect its drain and gate. This is your input. This is your output. Now you can also have an NMOS transistor where it is connected, where the drain and the gate are connected like this, and you have your input transistor like this. Let's say this is your V in, this is your V out. Okay. Now let's call it M1, M2 in this case. Okay. Now there is a very interesting aspect. So I mentioned that a diode connected transistor will always remain in saturation, right? That is because its VDS is equal to VGS, which means it's always in saturation. Now, what happens to the small signal parameters? Okay, so if you take a transistor, for example, let us take, let's take an NMOS transistor to start off with, right? Or you can also take a PMOS transistor. Okay. Now, okay, first let's do the PMOS first. Okay. Right. Now, if you draw the small signal equivalent circuit, how can you draw? So this is a PMOS circuit, so everything goes, ulta. So what do you have? You have source which is grounded, right? And you have a current source like this, which is GMVSG, right? Now you have a gate terminal, right? This is your gate. Now what has happened is that you have connected your gate and your drain together. And let's say you have your R0 here. All right. Now what is your VSG? Your VSG is given as this one. All right. Now what we are doing is, what is the small signal equivalent circuit, or rather, what is going to be the impedance seen from here? Or in other words, when you are putting a circuit like this, what is the impedance when you look up? All right. If you just have this transistor, what is the impedance seen here? Now, how do we check the impedance? That is quite straightforward. We have done that many times. You put some test voltage source and you try to measure the current, test current. Okay. So now let us write the expressions here. What is IT here? IT can be, written as, minus GM times VSG, right? And plus VT times VT divided by R0, right? Now, what is your VSG? It is 0 minus VT. Okay. So now what does IT here? IT becomes plus GM times VT plus VT by R0. Now let's collect the terms. So VT by IT will become what? So rather, let us write it like this. IT can be written as VT times GM plus 1 by R0. Okay. Or Rin is given by VT by IT, which is 1 by GM plus 1 by R0. Right. This is your expression. So in other words, what you're saying here is, you took one PMOS transistor, you diode connected this transistor, and you are finding out the input impedance when looking from the drain side. Okay. Now what are you getting? You're getting 1 over GM plus 1 by R0. Typically, if you see, GM will be GM R0 is much greater than 1. GM R0 is the intrinsic gain of the transistor. Okay. So for example, if you take 0.5 millisiemens GM, and let's say you have a 5K resistor, you get GM R0 to be around 25. Okay. Now this is definitely greater than 1. So which means that this can be easily approximated to 1 over GM. Okay. So this is a very important result that you must keep in mind. That is, when you diode connect a transistor and you look at the input impedance, okay, from the drain side, the input impedance is approximately equal to 1 over GM. Now, what is 1 over GM? 1 over GM is quite a low value. So for example, if you take, 1 over GM is not a very high value. Okay. So it is a low impedance. All right. Now the same, this is true for even a diode connected transistor like this. Okay. So if you take an NMOS transistor and you look at the diode connected transistor and look at the input impedance from the drain side, its input impedance is going to be 1 by GM, or the more accurate expression is going to be 1 over GM plus 1 by R0. Okay. All right. Now that we have found this out, let us also look at what is the impedance looking from the source side. Right. This is the second transistor circuit that I drew, VDD. Right. If you look at this second circuit, I have an NMOS transistor which is diode connected, but now I am not looking at the transistor through the drain side. I am looking at it from the source side. Okay. Now what happens? I am interested in finding out what is my Rin. Okay. Now again, let us look at the small signal equivalent circuit. How can we draw the small signal equivalent circuit? This is our gate, this is our source, this is our drain, right? Our gate is grounded, right? Because it is VDD AC ground. Now our gate and our drain are connected, all are grounded, and we have GM VGS and we have R0. Now there is one more factor here. What is that factor? The bulk is connected to ground. Okay. Whereas in the previous example, in a PMOS transistor, the bulk is connected to VDD. So your VSB is equal to 0. Okay, which is why we didn't talk about the body effect and so on. But in this example, in this particular case, your source is at a different potential. If you look at this particular circuit, let's call this as M3 and M4. The source of M3 is different than the bulk of M3. Sorry, M4, right? So now what happens? You have body effect coming into the picture. And we saw in one of the earlier classes that it can be modeled as one more current source, which is called as GMB VBS, okay, which is going to be in parallel and in the same direction as your GM VGS. Okay. Now, where is your body? Your body is also, let's say this is gate, this is drain, this is source, this is your bulk. Now, we want to know what is our input impedance. So how will we find out input impedance? The same old technique. VT, measure IT, right? Now let us write the expression. What is IT? IT can be written as minus of GM VGS plus VT by R naught minus GMB VBS, right? Now here what is VGS? VGS is 0 minus VT, which is minus VT, which is the same as your VBS also, right? Because your bulk is grounded and the source is at the same potential. So rewriting the previous equation, you get GMB VT plus VT by R naught plus GMB VT. Now, going by the same technique that we did earlier, this results in your Rn being equal to Vt by It, which is equal to 1 over Gm plus Gmb plus 1 by R0. All right. Now, what is the extra term here? So this is the other interesting factor, that if you diode connect a transistor, and whether you look at the impedance from the source side or the drain side, it is approximately 1 over Gm. Only thing, if the body effect is coming into the picture, then you have GMB added to it. Okay. If you don't, and this of course can be approximated to be 1 over Gm plus GMB. Okay. So these are some very important results which we will be using quite often, like sometimes. Okay. And if you look at the other expression, we said GMB is some eta times GM. So which means that you can also say that your Rn is equal to approximately 1 over Gm into 1 plus this eta. All right. So these are all different ways of expressing that. Okay. Now, how do you find out the gain? So let us look at this circuit number 1 and circuit number 2. Okay. Now, in circuit number 1, how will you find the gain? Now, you can go and draw the full small signal equivalent circuit, and you can derive the full expression. That is possible. You will get the same result, but there's a little easier way to do it. Okay. The easier technique or the easier trick to do is basically to say, you know, I find out my transconductance of the circuit. Okay. And in fact, that is called as a lemma, which is also proved in the textbook. You can go through it. The lemma says that the gain can be expressed as the effective transconductance multiplied by the effective output impedance at that node. Okay. The lemma says, which I'm not going into the proof of it, that if you have a circuit, if you want to find out the small signal gain, you find out the transconductance and you multiply it with the effective output impedance at the output node. So if you take the first circuit, what did we do? Okay, this is the thing. But before I do this, let me demonstrate how it works. Let me take the previous circuit, right? This was the circuit that we fully derived, right? Now, if you use the same technique, or rather this lemma, what is the transconductance here? Can you tell me of this particular circuit? Let's call it circuit A. What is the effective transconductance?
GM.
It is GM.
It's GM,
right?
sir.
It is GM. The effective transconductance is GM. What is the total ROut?
So total ROut is one by it's
R not parallel.
1 by GM, no sir. It's upper.
So R not parallel RD.
R not
Are
parallel.
not parallel to RD. Okay. An easier way to do is, suppose you are standing here. Okay. Look down. What do you see? Look up. What do you see? Okay. put both in parallel. If you look up, you have RD. If you look down, if you look at the small signal equivalent circuit, if you take a transistor biased in saturation and you look into it, the output impedance is R0, right? That's all. Okay. This is your output impedance. We derived the output impedance also mathematically in the previous section, probably in the last two classes, right? Now, this is the same expression that we got by doing the more laborious, because it was not very difficult, but it was a slightly more elaborate process of drawing the small signal equivalent circuit and deriving the whole thing. Okay, but a more easier method is to take what is the effective transconductance and what is the total output impedance. Multiply the two, you get the gain. So here I demonstrated to you what is the gain. Now let us look at this circuit B, right? Let's call it as M1 and M2 so that we are able to differentiate. Now, can you tell me what is the effective transconductance of the circuit? Let's say this is your V in, this is your V out.
So it should be again GM1 only.
Exactly. It is GM1 only because the input is applied to M1 and M1 is going to kind of translate or convert your input voltage to a corresponding output current. Okay. So the transconductance is done by this transistor M1 and the factor by which it does is GM1. That's it. Right. Now what is the R out?
1 by GM2 parallel R01.
GM parallel
Very
with
good.
R0.
Right. That's it. You look up, you have 1 by GM2 and here you have R01. Okay. Now your overall gain can be derived to be as GM1 into 1 over GM2 parallel to R01. Okay. Now this can be kind of approximated to be. So if you compare the value of R01 and GM2, especially if you are having a longer channel length and all, R01 will be much higher than GM1 over GM2. Approximately it will be GM1 by GM2. Okay. Now you can verify this by going through the full small signal equivalent circuit and the entire analysis also. Okay. All right. Now let us look at this. Yeah.
There is 180 degree phase shift minus negative sign occurs, no, sir. Minus GM1 by
Yes.
GM2.
Yes. That is so. Okay. So common source, no matter what type of a load you have, it will always result in a 180 degree phase shift. So which means that you'll always have that minus sign in the gain. Okay. Yeah, thanks. Now let's look at the other circuit where you take a NMOS transistor and you put it as a diode connected load, right? Let's say this is V in. Let's call this as M1. Let's call this as M2. This is V out. Now can you tell me what is the effective GM here?
GM1, sir.
GM1, correct, very good. Now what is your R out here?
Not one.
GM1,
Yeah, R01
GM2
parallel to
parallel 1 by G parallel 1 GM2. Yes, sir.
correct. Okay. So you look down, you see R01. You look up, you see 1 over GM2 plus GMB2. Okay. You have the GMB2 coming in because the bulk is grounded. You have a bulk to source voltage. This is what you get. To be more precise and all that, you can say, okay, R02 inverse or 1 by R02. This is more accurate. Okay. That's the thing. All right. Now, in all these cases, bandwidth is easy to be calculated. Right? Because bandwidth is nothing but 1 by 2 pi R out times, let's say, C out plus CL. Okay. Now, if you look at most of the textbooks, they will say that, the CL is much greater than C out and typically the CL is taken. But nevertheless, what is important is that your output capacitance, the total capacitance at the output node, right? You will have now let us kind of look at what is C out in this. Can you tell me what is C out? What are the components in C out?
So M2 parasitic capacitance.
Correct. So what are the things? So let's say this is my effective C out. So it will consist of CdB1, right? The
Yes.
bulk to drain capacitance.
Yes, sir.
Again, use a-
CD1.
yeah, let me use a different color. Right. You have CdB1. Same way, what will you have? CGD.
CGD.
Because of Miller effect, it will turn out to be almost the same, CGD1. Then what else will you have? This is connected,
CD.
bulk is connected to ground. You'll have
SB1.
CSB2.
Yes.
Right? And not only that, you'll also have CGS2. Okay. Now all these parasitic capacitances together form your C out in this particular case. Okay. Now if you look at this particular circuit, what are the capacitances here? Can you tell me C out for this case? You have CdB1. Then you have
CGD.
CGD1, right, the Miller effect. And then here you have,
CB.
this node is connected. You have, what is this capacitance?
CDB.
Is it dB?
DS, sir.
Sorry.
This is gate. What is
Yes.
this term?
CG.
SBS.
Yes,
It
yes.
is CGS2. Okay. Because these two are shorted, right? The CGD is shorted out. That is not in the picture. CGS2 is there. Now from here to CDB2 also comes into the picture. So you
Sir,
have CGS2. Yeah.
sir,
Yeah,
if
tell
I'm
me.
sir CGD1 1 minus 1 by AV, na sir.
Correct. Which is approximately equal to CGD. So 1 minus 1 by A, right? You'll have something like this, or 1 plus 1 by A, something like that, right? So if your gain is, let's say, 20, you'll have 1.05 or something like that, right? So approximately equal to CGD. That small increase is like, quite negligible when you talk about all the capacitances put together. Okay. But you're right. It is
Yes, sir.
CGD into 1 minus 1 into 1 minus 1 by A. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. So now these are the output capacitances. Now again, if you see here, let us compare the R outs of these two transistors. Okay. Now if you see the common source with resistive load, common source with diode connected load. Okay, let me do this comparison a little later because I want to finish the next one also, right? So yeah, so the total gain here I didn't write. It is minus GM1 divided by approximately GM2 plus GMB2. This is your approximate gain, right? And bandwidth you will get like this. You can also calculate the noise. Okay, the noise will be calculated the same way. So I'm not going through all the things here. Instead of the resistor noise, what will you get? You will basically get the 4kT gamma GM noise, right? So if you take the first circuit, sorry. Right. Now, if you look at the noise components here, you will basically have 4kT gamma GM1 and you'll have 4kT gamma GM2, right? And not only that, you have K by WL Cox 1 over F. Now, here also you have K by WL Cox F, right? So the total output current IN out squared can be written as what? 4kT gamma GM1 plus GM2, right? These two current sources plus you have K by WL Cox WL of 1 Cox F multiplied by GM1 squared plus K divided by WL2 Cox F multiplied by GM2 squared. Correct.
Sir.
This is what you'll get. Now your Vn out squared will be In out squared multiplied by R out squared, and your input referred noise voltage is nothing but Vn out squared divided by your gain squared. All right.
Sir,
Yeah.
sir, is the K same for both the transistor and gamma also?
I think it might differ from process to process. It is actually K is not necessarily the same. Okay, let me call it K and Kn and Kp, because typically they say PMOS has a little lower flicker noise than NMOS. Gamma, I think it is kind of the same. Okay.
Okay, sir.
All right. Yeah. So this is how you do your noise analysis. Okay. All right. Now, what about the swing? Let us talk about output swing. Let's take the first case where we had a PMOS diode connected load. Now, can you tell me what is V out min? Let's call it M1, M2. What is V out min?
VD set 1.
Exactly. You have VD sat 1. Okay. What is V out max? This is the
VDD
output
minus
voltage swing.
VD
So
sat
let's
2.
say you are having your sinusoidal signal. We said this is VD sat 1. Right? Can you tell me what is the thing?
VDD minus VD set 2.
VDD minus VD set 2.
Why do you say it is VD sat? Here, the notion of VD sat is not that because it's a diode connected transistor, right? VDS is equal to VGS here. VDS2 is equal to VGS2 always, right? Because you have shorted together.
Okay, sir. So VDD minus VG is 2.
VGS 2, yeah.
Yeah, it will be VDD minus, I mean, the transistor has to be alive, no? Only then you will have current flow. Otherwise, you will not have any current flow. The whole thing collapses. So if you kind of assume a perfect, kind of clear break at threshold voltage, you would say that VDD minus VTH is your Vout max. Okay. In practice, it will be somewhere around that point because we have significant amount of subthreshold conduction, especially in deep submicron processes. And so it is very difficult to estimate exactly up to where it can go. But for typical cases, right?
Sir, is it
You will have
VTH or VDS2?
VTH, yes, yeah, VTH maybe. Let me call it as VTH2. So if you say, okay, there is a clear break at VTH, then you would say that it can go up to VDD minus VTH. Okay. Now the same thing kind of applies to even your NMOS diode connected thing. Bottom side, it can go up to VD sat. The top again, it needs at least the threshold voltage to operate. Okay. So this is your signal swing limits. All right. Now we have looked at noise. Let us look at one more type of common source. In fact, this is the most commonly used common source type. So this is common source. I had already introduced this earlier with a current source load. Now, if you kind of look at, before I go to it, let me talk about the motivation for doing that. Now, if you look at these gain expressions, all right. Now, these gains are not very high. Okay, the first case, let's look at the first case which we saw yesterday. I told you this problem, right? If you want to increase gain, you are going to have this, you are stuck with this problem that as you increase RD, you are bringing down your output DC voltage, right? If you increase GM by increasing current also, you're going to bring down your output DC voltage, right? Now you can increase GM by kind of, increasing the size and reducing your VGS and so on. So that is also possible, but then that also results in larger, device sizes and more capacitance and so on. Okay. So you're kind of stuck as far as gain is concerned in this first circuit. Now moving to this second circuit, if you look at all the gain expressions, right? Let's look at where is the gain expression? Yeah, it is GM1 by GM2. Okay. Now how different can your GMs be? Maybe you can have twice the GM, thrice the GM, 4 times the GM, right? You're limited to a very low signal, small signal gain. Okay. In other words, you can say that you have a fixed GM1, which is constant for all the different types of common source amplifiers, but this R out is actually low. Okay. If you look at a diode connector transistor, you're limited by 1 over GM, right? And your 1 over GM kind of limits your R out. Okay. So for example, if you have a 1 millisiemens as your GM2, you have 1 kilo ohm as your output impedance. Now, sometimes, especially in the older technologies, when you are doing analog design, you will have some 3-4 millisiemens of GM. So which means you have an output impedance which is less than 1 kilo ohm. Okay. And in these older technologies, your R naught will be very high. You'll have like tens of kilo ohms basically, right? So your compared to R naught, your GM is very low. So basically you'll end up with a very low gain. Okay. So if, for example, if you, let's take an example gain here. Let's say GM1 is 1 millisiemens and let's say GM2 is some, 2 millisiemens. What is the gain that, okay, if you put GM1 and GM2 like this, you're going to get gain of less than 1. Let us say we take the other way around. Let's say this is 4 millisiemens and this is 1 millisiemens. Your gain is going to be approximately 4. That's all. Okay. So this is a very bad, this doesn't give you a lot of gain. Okay. The first circuit only was giving you fairly decent amount of gain. But that circuit has a big problem that you are stuck with a certain amount of gain. You cannot increase it beyond that. Now, how do we solve this problem? Okay, the problem was solved by, saying that I'm going to put a current source as my load. Okay. Now, if you have a current source as your load, what will be your gain? Let's use our technique minus GM. What is GM? Here it is the only GM that is available. If you look up, and perfect current source will have infinite impedance, right? An ideal current source. You look down, you get R naught. So this is your gain, okay? Or rather, this is going to be the max gain that you're going to get out of a topology like this. And this factor, GM R naught, as I mentioned earlier, this is what is called as the intrinsic gain of transistor. Okay. Because the moment you put anything else, it is going to be this R naught in parallel with something else. And as we all know, the moment you put some resistor in parallel with another resistor, the effective value is going to go down. Okay. So the intrinsic gain of a transistor is defined as GM R naught, and that is the highest gain that you can get out of a transistor. Okay. Which depends on GM and R naught and so on. Right, but for a given bias condition, this is the intrinsic gain and this is the max gain, which is theoretically possible but practically not achievable. Not right. Now, how can we implement this current source? We have already studied. How can you implement? Put one transistor in saturation region, right? Let's say this is biased. We know how to bias this transistor. We have already seen that, right? This is going to come from some current mirror. This is your Vout. Let's say this is M1, this is M2. Okay. Now again, you can go and look at the small signal equivalent circuit and derive the whole thing. That is possible. But using that lemma, what is the gain? Can you tell me? What is your effective transconductance here?
GM1, sir.
GM1. What is your R out here?
One by GM2.
Why do you have 1 by GM2? Is it direct connected here? No, right?
R not
You're
one
looking
parallel
at
R.
exactly, right? You look down, you see a transistor which is in saturation, and you're looking into the drain of the transistor, right? So if you look at a transistor into its drain while it is in saturation, you see R01. You look up, you're again seeing another transistor which is in saturation region, right? And you're looking into the drain terminal. So you will see
Parallel are not two.
Parallel R02. This is your gain. So your gain ends up being GM1 R01 parallel to R02. Okay. Now here the advantage is that you are not kind of limited by RD by this thing. Okay. Now can you tell me what is your V out min, the output signal swing? Let's say you have a signal swing like this. How low can the signal swing? Let's say this is your VDD, this is your ground. What is V out min? What is V out max? Can you tell me?
VD set 1.
Yeah, V out min is VD sat. That is, you want your bottom transistor to be still in saturation. You don't want to push it out of saturation. Understood? Okay. Now, what is V out max?
VDD minus VDS2.
You're almost there. VDD minus
VD set.
VD sat 2, right?
VD set.
Or rather, you can say okay, mod of VD sat 2 or VSD sat 2 or whatever you call it as. But ultimately, we all get the point, right? There is a VD sat of your PMOS transistor. You want both your transistors to be in the saturation region, and as long as both are in saturation region, you can have your nice signal swing here. All right, this is your output signal swing. Okay, now let us look at your bandwidth. What is bandwidth? What is the bandwidth of this particular circuit? Okay, let's say this is, I'll redraw the circuit here. You'll have some C out, and let's say you also have some load capacitance CL. Okay, now what is your bandwidth here?
1 by 2 pi.
1 by 2 pi. First, let's write 1 by 2 pi R out times C out plus CL. Correct. This is your bandwidth. We saw that yesterday. When you have any particular this thing, if you look at the small signal equivalent circuit, you will have an effective output impedance and some capacitance. Right. Now this can be written as what? 1 by 2 pi R0. R01 parallel to R02 C out plus CL. Okay. Now what is C out? Can you tell me what are the components in C out? What are these components? CDB1, CGD1, CGD2, CDB2. Correct. And using Miller effect, you can write CDB1 plus CDB2, CGD1 plus CGD2. Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay. Any doubts? Any questions so far? Okay.
No, sir.
Now, yeah. What about noise? Let's look at noise. Now you're going to help me write the expression. Let me draw it again. Okay. Now, what are all the noise components? First, we have a 4KT gamma GM1. We have another 4KT gamma GM2. We have the flicker noise component, which is Kn divided by WLC ox F. Let's say this is Kp divided by WLC ox F. Okay, this is WL1, WL2. These are the noise sources. Now, can you help me with IN out squared? What is the short circuit output current, output noise current, power spectral density?
4 KT gamma GM2
4 KT gamma,
gamma GM1
let's
plus
add
GM1
GM1,
plus GM
GM2 plus
KN
KP upon
KNWL1 Cox F multiplied by
GM square
GM1 square
GM1
GM1
squared
square
plus, then what do you have?
K
KP
Kp divided by
upon
WL
W12
W
Cox F multiplied by GM2.
GM2 square.
This is the total this thing. Now, what is going Vn out squared? Of course, is this multiply In out squared multiplied by R out squared, and your Vn in squared is going to be what? Vn out squared divided by gain squared. Now, what is your gain squared? You can say that it is. So you can write Vn in squared bar to be as In out squared multiplied by R out squared divided by GM1 squared multiplied by R out squared, right? So now, of course, both these are going to get cancelled out. You are left with GM1 squared in the denominator. Okay. So if I were to rewrite this equation, Vn in squared bar, it is 4 KT gamma 1 plus, sorry, it is, what did we have here? GM1 divided by
GM1
GM1
plus
squared.
G.
So you have 1 by GM1 plus GM2 by GM1 squared plus, of course, the Kn divided by WL Cox F squared. This will remain the same because you multiply it by GM1 squared, divide by GM1 squared. That also makes sense because already it is, at the input, right? Now what happens to the PMOS thing? It is multiplied by Kp divided by WL2 Cox F, not F
GM2
squared, right? You have GM2 squared divided by GM1 squared, right? Now this is your total input referred noise. Now if you want to reduce noise, what will you do?
Reduce GM2 by GM1.
Increase GM.
Increase GM1, that's it, right? So to reduce noise, what you need to do is basically increase GM1, because GM1 is pretty much in all the denominators except for the flicker noise term, right? And so increase GM1, you will reduce noise. Now secondly, to increase gain, what can you do? You have GM1 R01, right? GM1 R01 parallel to R02. So one option is basically to increase your GM1, and the other option is basically to increase R01 and R02. Correct. These are the two options that you have. Now, on the other hand, to increase bandwidth, what can you do? We saw your bandwidth, it is 1 by 2 pi R01 parallel to R02 multiplied by, let's say, C out plus CL, right? So CL is fixed, you cannot do anything about it. The only way that you can do is by reducing R01 and R02. Okay, now you look at points number 2 and 3. To increase your gain, what you should do, you have to increase your R01, R02. But in order to increase your bandwidth, what you should do, you should reduce your R01 and R02. In other words, you see that there is a gain bandwidth trade-off, right? Yesterday, I talked about noise power trade-off. Here you have gain bandwidth trade-off, which means that, let's say, by some means, if you just increase your R0, your gain will increase and your bandwidth will decrease by the same amount, right? If you double R0 here, the R01 parallel to R02, if you double it, your gain will double and your bandwidth will reduce by half. Okay. So this leads us to the conclusion that gain bandwidth product is going to be a constant. Okay. Now, what is your gain bandwidth product? Gain into
This is
bandwidth.
fixed GM, right?
Yes, of course. Let's just say CL, the 2 pi factor is there. Okay. Now, if you multiply the gain and the bandwidth, what do you get? You get GM1 divided by 2 pi CM.
Yeah.
Right? Now, if you take a single pole system, what is a single pole system? Let's say H of S is given by A naught divided by 1 plus S by omega P. This is a single pole system, right? If you plot its response, if you do the Bode plot, what will you have? You'll have A naught here as the DC gain. You have omega P as the pole frequency. And you'll have a minus 20 dB per decade. This one, x-axis is log of F. This is magnitude of H of S, right? Or H of F evaluated on the omega axis, right? Now, what is this point? Do you know what this is called as? The intersect point?
Unity gain.
Exactly. This you would have studied as unity gain
Bandwidth.
frequency or unity gain bandwidth, right? Now, what is your unity gain bandwidth for a single pole system? So you have to put mod H of S is equal to 1, right? Which means that A naught divided by root of 1 plus omega by omega P the whole squared is equal to 1. Now, if you evaluate this, you will get, what will you get?
Omega equal
You'll
to
end
A
up
naught
with-
square.
Yeah, omega UGF will be equal to A naught times omega P. Okay, approximately. This is what you will get as your unity gain frequency. Okay. In other words, your unity gain frequency turns out to be equal to your gain bandwidth product. All right. So this is a very important concept that we use. Every op-amp that you would design, you will make sure that it becomes a unit single pole system, and you talk about the unity gain bandwidth of your op-amp or the gain bandwidth product of your op-amp. Okay. So we will continue in next week's class. Any doubts? Any questions so far?
Sir, this statement is true for only single pole system, right?
Yes. Yes. For a one pole system. Okay. Now, if you look at your this common source amplifier, right? The RS typically the source impedance driving will be very low, so it can be approximated to be a single pole system. Okay. In most cases, your your second pole will be beyond your unity gain frequency, and this whole thing can be approximated as a single pole system. You'll see that as we build op amps and so on, most of them either they'll end up being mostly single pole, or for two-stage op amps, we will do something called as compensation to make it a pretty much like a single pole system. Okay.
Yes.
And if you see the gain here is quite high. Okay. GM1 multiplied by the parallel combination of two R naughts. So as long as your R naughts are going to be high, you're going to have a fairly high gain. So compared to all these topologies, this common source with the current source, common source amplifier with the current source load gives you the highest gain. Okay. Any doubts? Any questions?
So
Yeah.
in gain bandwidth products, we have CL plus C out, no sir?
Correct.
So that GM upon 2 pi CL plus C
Correct.
out or only CL?
Yeah, I just bunched the whole thing together here. Okay.
Okay, sir, fine.
Just bunch the total capacitance here. That's it. Yeah, we will continue this in the next class. Okay. Wednesday is your quiz, so we will not be having the class. Thursday we will meet again. Okay. All right. Thanks everyone. Have a nice day.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So the syllabus is still today.
Yeah, till whatever we have covered today.
Okay, sir.
So what would be the pattern of the paper?
Yeah, pattern. I think you'll mostly have objective type plus maybe some subjective type. I'll let you guys know before the exam. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks everyone. Have a nice day.